We are just over 2 weeks into the year, and we have our first potential Resident Evil announcement coming this year after Requiem. What is up, everybody? Andy here from Biohazard Declassified, and let's enter the survival horror once again and talk all things Resident Evil Code Veronica remake.
Biohazard.
Okay, so quite simply, this was the tweet that sent everybody into a frenzy. IGN was reporting on it. Absolutely everyone and their dog has been reporting on this. And it's from our esteemed friend, our insider in the community, Dusk Golem, who says, no, there's not a Resident Evil 5 remake that's going to be announced this year. Instead, later this year, a Resident Evil remake that starts with C and ends in Ode Veronica is going to be announced, I promise you. Her thing is something else, not a remake of RE5. All this stems from the Sheva Alomar voice actor, Eva Adair, putting up a tweet basically saying she's got a few fun things lined up in March. As we know, that's the 30th anniversary of Resident Evil, and it sent everybody into a frenzy. Everyone's like, 5 remakes getting announced this year. Can tell you guys, it's not the Resident Evil 5 remake she's involved with, and everything else is under NDA. I'm really sorry. But yes, that's the tweet that put everybody into a frenzy. And I think because of that, that's why Dusk has come forward and basically said to everybody, no, that's not happening. 5 is not happening. It's Code Veronica that's going to be announced next. He has spoken about this before, I do believe. And I have had it corroborated elsewhere that Code Veronica is absolutely next. That's going to be announced. I don't know if it's going to be this year or next year, but absolutely the next Resident Evil game after Requiem is going to be Code Veronica. And just to give you a bit of gen of what the rumor mill is with the Code Veronica remake. Reno the Bouncer, I often follow his stuff on Twitter, X. He does a great job of certainly summarizing all of Dusk's tweets, and certainly the general vibe of the community in terms of the insider/leaker community. So in development since 2022, 3 years in development, very smooth cycle, ahead of schedule. Resident Evil 4 levels of good. Wesker has a much bigger role, as expected. I mean, if we look at Resident Evil 4... actually, let me go through these before we break these points down. Steve has an innocent crush on Claire. HCF storyline becomes a main plot. Semi-open world. Claire explores an open Rockford Island and she rides a motorcycle to explore. So, initially, guys, do we want to see Resident Evil Code Veronica remake? Absolutely. I truly believe, if you're just going to ask my opinion... I truly believe it's the last real Resident Evil game that hasn't been remade. Yes, 0 and the first remake maybe deserve RE engine treatment, but if we're looking at absolute priority, what needs to be brought out of old gen, it is absolutely Code Veronica. It really is, to me, the last original style Resident Evil game. So yes, there's things that I think they're going to have to do tactically to make it work with the modern audience. I'm sorry, guys. I had to say it. You know that's coming. It has to work with the modern audience. It has to be appealing, blah, blah, blah. But I do believe they can make it work. And certainly some of the lines that Claire says can be maybe a little bit too much for today's audience. And this is me diplomatically speaking. Obviously, I don't really care about the lines personally. But yes, there's going to be things that they're certainly going to have to adapt, but there's so much content there. That's really, this has been a conversation in the community for a very long time, that Code Veronica is the sequel to Resident Evil 2. Obviously, it's not. We know from various developer commentaries that Resident Evil 3 was always meant to be next, but certainly if you look at large-scale Resident Evil games, Code Veronica is certainly up there. It's a great game, hard game as well. So, and I think it'd be perfect as if they're going to go back to the past again, like they did with the other Resident Evil games, that Code Veronica should certainly be on that list. We're going back through these points. Nothing out of the ordinary when it comes to development cycle. Resident Evil 4 levels are good. It's a very interesting point because Resident Evil 4, I think, is the first game in a long time that it's got 10 out of 10s across the board with all critics, not necessarily just IGN, but across the board. I couldn't believe it. People really liked Resident Evil 4. So, again, I want it to have that. I really truly believe that Resident Evil 2 Remake changed the game on how we looked at survival horror, for good and for bad, but predominantly good. And I'd like it to follow that more so than, say, Resident Evil 4. It doesn't need to have like an internal currency system or anything like that. It needs to be that traditional Resident Evil experience. Wesker having a bigger role obviously makes sense. If you watched him in Resident Evil 4, they kind of alluded to him having, like, certainly developing his character more. I know, obviously, Resident Evil 4 is set afterwards, but obviously, I want to do more with the Wesker character before he perishes in RE5. HCF storyline becomes a main plot. Okay, like to see how that progresses. Semi-open world, it makes sense. If they play along the lines of what they did with Village or with Resident Evil 4, I think they can make that work. That'd be a very interesting experience. She rides a motorcycle to explore. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with that. Because again, to me, survival horror is kind of tight locations. I mean, Resident Evil 4 is a survival horror game, but it really leans more into action horror, I would suggest. But yeah, I'm not sure if I'm on board with that. Can't remember where that's come from, but obviously he sourced Dusk Golem with it. I don't know, guys. I think it's necessary that Resident Evil Code Veronica has to come next. It's, as I said, really the last Resident Evil game that needs to be remade from that older generation. I'm interested to see how they tell that story. And we said the same thing about RE4 when it first came out, how they approach this, how they approach this. Now, RE4 did a very good job of really maintaining the status quo. They didn't really do anything that was that crazy when you compare that to, say, Resident Evil 3 Remake, which was quite substantially different from Resident Evil 3, the original. I mean, Resident Evil 2 Remake was more in line with the original, but yeah, really, we want the RE1 treatment, which is that original core experience, taking itself a little more seriously with a fresh coat of paint. We want that core experience, but we want it further developed on. They really nailed it with that RE1 remake. I don't think there's a better example of a remake than that, where they took that core concept and just branched out and made an authentic original experience. So yeah, I'm super looking forward to it. As I said, I've heard elsewhere, it's been corroborated elsewhere. I heard early as middle of last year that Code Veronica Remake was coming after Requiem. I'll be shocked if they announce it this year, especially on the backs of Requiem, but I'm open to being blown away. If it doesn't get announced this year, it'll be certainly next year. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Are you looking forward to a Resident Evil Code Veronica remake? Do you think Dusk is talking out his ass? I don't think he is. In this case, to be honest, he's always been pretty consistent on Resident Evil. I know certain things have been lost, but I think he's generally been pretty accurate. And yes, let me know what you think. Sheva Alomar, Evil Adair, what do you think her next project is? Because it's not Resident Evil 5 remake. And yes, I can't personally comment anymore. NDA. But yes, have a good one, guys. Look after yourselves, and hopefully we will all catch up very, very soon.